Today we're going to be talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, so stay tuned.
Welcome to The Real Review.
Welcome to The Real Review, sponsored by Parametric and Lazy Ape Studios, where you get some of the latest happenings, real thoughts, and perspectives in the world of film and television. And I am here today with Joel Kid Flash Cunningham.
I'm Kid Flash.
Yeah, who am I today?
You are Matt. I'm Mary Poppins. I had to do it.
Oh, one of the best lines.
That's one of my favorite lines of this coming generation. I think I'm going to
Yes.
be saying I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. If you don't know what we're talking about, stay tuned. You'll find out.
Yeah, it was between that and the panda line.
Right.
It was one of those two, yeah.
So, anyways, welcome to The Real Review. If you are new to the show, kind of the way that we break this thing down is we approach it from two angles. You have the critic perspective, which is very much like Joel, who's very negative and harsh and nitpicky.
And if you can't see, he's pointing at me very directly right
and pointing
now.
at Joel.
This guy right here.
He will pick apart a film until it's bleeding to death.
I will try, yeah.
That's just a generality.
It's a very doctor's way of looking at things. I'm trying to get to the base causes of issues.
So the way that I look at things, though, is on the opposite spectrum, which is more of a fan perspective, which is a little bit more emotional. What's pulling at my heartstrings more? Okay, I can overlook some storytelling issues. I can overlook some cinematography or directorial issues if it pulls at my heartstrings enough and I'm just generally excited about something.
Right, so you're like the Sarah McLachlan Arms of the Angel commercial.
Yes.
And I'm like the Zoloft anti-depression commercial.
I don't like those Sarah McLachlan ones.
In the arms of a raccoon.
It just makes me sad every time I see those trash pandas.
Oh, the trash pandas. There you go. Awesome. Cool.
Anyways, so that's kind of how the way that this show works.
Yeah.
We join them together. That's what you get, the fan and the critic perspective colliding in the middle. But and also there's a lot of ways that you can actually get connected with us. Joel, so why don't you go ahead and tell us about how you can get connected?
There is, Matt. There's a couple different ways, actually. Well, one of the best ways is on our website, which is realreviewmedia.com. And there we post a lot of good stuff, but we also have our links to all of our different social media places where you can check out direct links for those are facebook.com/realreviewmedia. And then you can also find our Twitter and our Instagram accounts, which is @realreviewmedia. We've always got a ton of cool stuff that we're posting up there. We just posted the most recent trailer for a very awesome, hopefully good-looking movie. Yeah, Blade Runner.
Well, it looks great.
It looks great. I know.
Looks great.
It looks great.
I don't know what the story's about.
I'm concerned about the story.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that, but we'll see. Trying to say that. But trying to keep my hopes up. So the other way you can get connected to us is we always love to hear about the different thoughts that you guys have as our listeners and, good, bad, the ugly, all that's in between. You can email us at realreviewmedia@gmail.com. And we always do our best to get responses out within, I think, 24 to 36 days.
Yeah, exactly. That sounds perfect.
That's not what people expect. So, there you go, Matt.
No, that's perfect. So with that, let's dive right into it.
Shall we?
Now, let me just preface this real quick because I have been dying to talk to you about this movie, Joel, but I have been resisting.
I have been resisting too.
I've been resisting to
we kind of let a few things slip, though.
Right. But I don't want to. For those listening, I didn't want to. I've been very curious as to what Joel thought about this movie, because I have a lot of strong opinions, but I wanted to be special for you folks listening out there, so that you're actually getting our genuine responses to each other's reactions.
New. We're gonna be like, oh, shocker!
Right.
But let me also say we're gonna split it up, right? Too.
Yes.
So we're gonna do first part is gonna be non-spoiler, and then we'll very clearly state, hey guys, spoiler warnings, and
I'll warn you like 3 to 17 times.
When died, then that thing
happened.
Yeah,
those kinds of things.
Yeah. So awesome.
So let's dive into this. So we got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 set to a backdrop of awesome mixtape number 2. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 continues the team's adventure as they unravel the mystery of Peter Quill's true parentage, directed by James Gunn. And got, you have your all-star cast: Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Vin Diesel, Bradley Cooper, Michael Rooker, Karen Gillan, and Sylvester Stallone, Kurt Russell. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Palm Clementif as Mantis as well.
Yes. Oh,
She's
yes.
jumping in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did a great job. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Quite the thing. So,
so do you want to take us? Because I feel like you've got a lot. I'm excited to talk about this too, but I'm more excited to actually hear what you're...
Really?
Okay.
Okay.
I know
I'll
you're
start.
super excited, so go for it.
I am pretty excited. I really like this movie.
You did?
Yeah,
Nice.
I did. I did really like this movie. Yeah. I'll start off with all the positive stuff, because there is one thing that was actually bugging me throughout the film. But
yeah,
let's start with
the soundtrack, right?
the soundtrack was great. Okay, so this movie was just a lot of fun.
Yes.
It was a very, very fun movie.
Absolutely.
I liked this more than the first one.
Okay.
I'm going to be as bold as I am right now to say that I liked it more than the first one. And we talked about it in our Coming Soon segment, and I'm pretty sure it's because I'm familiar with all the characters. I know what to expect. And then they had just elaborated on some things I was just not anticipating. I really thought that all the acting in it was fantastic. There wasn't any semblance of anybody mailing anything in.
Right.
I really enjoyed the story. I thought it had a lot more heart, but at the same time, I feel like that's one of the things that I'll probably ding it on the negative side a little bit later.
Okay.
I really thought there was a lot of heart behind it. We had Chris Pratt there were several times where he was being pretty serious and very emotional scenes that he had.
Yeah, he was less humorous, I felt like, in this movie than he was in the first.
He was.
Yeah.
But I saw this with a friend of mine, and that was one of the things that he said. He wanted Chris to be a little bit more funny, a little bit more goofy, but I didn't mind it actually. I liked it in this.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So I thought it was good because, man, oh man, let me just say that for example, Drax steps it up in the comedy level.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Dave Bautista, I mean, in the way that Chris Pratt kind of shifted his focus more towards the family, serious kind of role, he picked up all that slack.
I know.
And then with the addition of a couple of characters, I think with Nebula, well, not really Nebula, I'd say more Mantis. Mantis in a lot of ways added a lot of humor there as well with her character quirks and her like naivete, if you will, and her willingness to kind of just like, I don't know, believe the ridiculous things and say the ridiculous things, not knowing what she's doing is wrong. So yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, with that, there's some things I'll cover in the spoilers, and I can't talk about it just yet because there's some stuff with Nebula that I didn't care for that character in the first movie.
Yeah.
There's some stuff that I liked between her and Gamora in this movie.
Yeah.
But I can't talk about it until the spoiler part. But in addition to that, so we have the comedy from Drax. I thought was really, really great. Baby Groot,
he was amazing.
Was really, really good.
Yeah,
which is really funny. And this isn't really spoiling anything, but he's not really like an effective part of the team.
Right. He's effective in a very small way.
Right.
It's weird.
It's not like the first Guardians where he's taken out like a whole like legion of dudes real quick.
Yeah. But that's kind of his story arc in this film, and I don't want to spoil anything either. But I think, in a way, you're waiting for that, and you get that resolve.
So funny. I liked the way that everything resolved. I liked the way that it ended. I was a fan of the ending. I left smiling. There's a lot of times where I was just kind of smiling, in the movie, But I just a great time. I enjoyed myself more this second go around because I feel like I knew what I was getting, and I was surprised by some things here.
I'm just laughing. There's a couple scenes in particular I'm thinking of right now that I'm just laughing about.
I know. I was thinking about it all day today in preparation for this. Anyways, so I really liked it. I will say this. I'm glad that James Gunn is writing the third one.
Yes,
they've announced that he's doing the third one.
Yeah.
It's going to keep that continuity and that writing. He's got a good thing going here.
Absolutely.
And also, I found out, and we were talking about this earlier. This is one of the things I let slip earlier. But the guy who plays, I can't remember his name, but his name's Kraglin.
Oh, Kraglin. Yeah.
Sean Gunn, who plays Kraglin.
Kind of assistant guy.
He is. I didn't know this. He's James Gunn's brother. Anyways, I was
told me that. Yeah, that's cool.
I was like, what? Okay, that's cool. Anyways, he also does the on-set like motion capture stuff for Rocket.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't thinking Bradley Cooper did that.
No, he just does the voice. Like he hangs out in a sound booth. He never hangs out on set, I guess.
But
so that's really cool. It's really cool. It's a brotherly setup going on.
Yeah.
Really cool. This isn't. No, this isn't a spoiler. I'm not going to clarify this as a spoiler because I think it's fine. if you want to get mad at me later, get mad at me. But this movie has the best de-aging technology I've seen yet.
Oh yeah,
Incredible.
Right, I agree with that. I think they've made some pretty significant breakthroughs with that. I mean, even the new recent Johnny Depp, what they're doing in Pirates, I think he looks pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, you can still kind of tell there's a little plasticity to it, but I mean, he really looks like a younger version of himself.
And I was sitting there like staring at it, like looking for seams.
I was
like, this looks real.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a colorization thing that I think is happening that's still a little off. It's like a glow. It looks like almost unsharp.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's with that, but for the most part, I completely agree. It was believable.
Yeah.
It was a believable effect in this one. And I thought it was actually funny, his character, because I was like, man, he's like the Charlie's Angels of haircuts and everything like that. Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
The way that they did that with his character. So some of the things that I liked here, I'm loving, with James Gunn, I think you can tell he's a huge fan of the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a huge resurgence of 80s style kind of feel coming back, which, I'm a child of the 80s. I was born in 85. And so it's like, I'm really loving that thing. Hopefully other people are enjoying that as well.
Yeah.
I personally really enjoy that with the cassette tapes and the, even at the very beginning where he's using the little video game thing, the football video game thing by, I can't figure out who, remember who, but all those aspects. I love the soundtrack. I love the style. I love the feel of it. I think one of the things that I mentioned as well that I was concerned about was the dynamics between the team and the characters, and the way that in the first film, it felt very kind of like happy, slappy ending.
Yeah.
Like everybody's like, yay, love saves the day. And I didn't want them to start this movie off with the characters in like this, like they're operating in like peak condition.
Right.
And I think that's one of the great things they did with this film is they started off with some of the characters from like the last film that were getting along relatively well still, but there were some cracks that were kind of in the first film, and those have become bigger issues now.
Yeah.
And so they're not operating, and they're kind of dealing with, Baby Groot and the fact that he's a child now and he doesn't really know what he's doing.
Like legit, like he's a child, like it's like a 3-year-old.
Exactly. He's got the attitude and the understanding of a 3-year-old. And there was some funny back and forth dialoguing there. I think especially the scene with, I'm not going to spoil too much here, but just with Rocket and him when they're talking about the hats.
Yeah.
And he's like, he says, I am Groot. And he's like, he's confused by the fact that you could put on it. And it's like, all he said was, I am Groot. And he has like this whole sentence of what that actually meant. And it's like, how could you get that from I am Groot? You know what I mean?
Just embraces the ridiculousness of it. It's just so great.
Exactly. It's really funny in that sense. So what I was saying is I really do like the way that they didn't have all the characters operating in tip-top capacity.
Yeah.
And it took them on a journey through the movie where they had to learn to get into a better place with trusting each other. And this movie really, in a lot of ways, was dealing with the past.
Right.
It wasn't as forward-thinking that I think a lot of people might have wanted or expected, especially going into like Infinity War and Civil War and stuff. It's like they're dealing with, Chris Pratt's parentage. Zoe's dealing with her father and her sister,
right.
Which I think if I had one sort of critique, I felt like that was a little bit glossed over in this. I didn't really get... I mean, I understand why they would hate each other and be contentious towards each other, but because I didn't actually like really see any of that, and I didn't really I got a decent understanding of it. Like it wasn't as impactful. I think,
that dynamic, which I won't get into the details until later, but that dynamic is something that I actually really liked because of a theme that kind of. I don't want to talk about it.
Right, and there's a theme that kind of plays throughout the movie, and I think I'm getting what you're talking about. But I really liked the reality of Rocket. And it's kind of like dealing sort of with his past and where he came from. And that's created a sense of like pushing people away and how that works itself out on the team. Yeah. And it's constantly about what he wants and what he wants to do. So I really liked that. I really liked this, even with Yondu's dealing with the what he dealt with because of his approach with Star-Lord and everything like that, and his interactions, with other characters in the film. I don't know if I want to spoil that too much, but with ego and stuff like that. So I just really like that aspect of it. I thought that was really good and very, at times, difficult to watch and very touching though, when they're processing through this stuff and they're working through it. And I felt like I was engaged and I was on the line for it. I think the other thing, their just willingness to go into scenes and just try something that's like completely fresh and different and
Yeah.
new was just hilarious to me, and very tongue-in-cheek at times, very silly, but also good. And like even in the very beginning where they're doing that first fight, you know, and they're fighting and he starts the music and Baby Groot's
That's
just kind of
best.
I know, and
That
it's
was
just
the
like
best.
I was like, okay, I'm gonna like this movie.
Yeah.
Like at that one scene, I'm just like, I was very concerned that we were gonna miss out on something, and then that just builds perfectly to the whole scene with him jumping inside, and he's just like, I could kill him from the inside, da 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 da. And he's just in there stabbing it, and nothing's happening. I mean, that
Oh
was
my
just
gosh.
hilarious to me. So sorry again if spoiler warnings, but
No, it's all
you know,
good.
but it's the very beginning of the movie,
It's
so
not.
that's probably
It's
my-
not. I wouldn't
Yeah.
categorize that as
Yeah, so I
spoilers.
thought that was good. I think for me, the acting was, some of them was really good. I think it wasn't, nobody hit it like out of the park for me, I will say. Ego in particular, Kurt Russell, he's weird to me. Sometimes I love his character. I think his character does much better with like a, when he's got like, he's boiling rage, when there's kind of like an anger, like an underlying anger, he comes off as a little flat to me at times when he
Right.
doesn't have that. And I think the first part of the story as well, he kind of felt a little flat for me a little bit, but you knew that there was kind of like bigger things that were boiling to the
Yeah,
surface.
happening, yeah.
Right. And so I was along for the ride enough, and I was engaged with that enough. I think the other thing with this story is that it was a lot more, I think with the first film, because you've never met these characters before, you've never met this universe, you don't know anything about this, it felt really large, it felt really grand, and
Yeah.
everything that they were reaching into and reaching out to. This one felt a lot tighter in a sense to me,
Yeah.
just with where they took it, because they only had they needed to, it was focused on the correct things at the right times, but it didn't feel as big. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like when they would jump away, there's a couple parts, and I don't want to spoil anything, but when they were jumping into like things are happening around the universe,
Yeah.
it felt a bit disjointed.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't been there, I hadn't been experiencing something that I felt like connected me with Earth,
Right.
you know, or some other planet. So that felt a little disjointed,
Right.
but I still thought it was fine. I thought it was good. And then the other thing I will say that I really, really, really liked is I really liked the ending. I actually
Yeah.
really enjoyed the ending
Yeah, it
to
was
this
really
one,
good.
much more than the last one.
Yeah.
It felt fulfilling. It felt good. It felt right. This leads into another one of the critiques. I watched this movie with my sister.
Yeah.
She and I kind of had differing views on this. I'm not attacking her view at all. But there was a lot, and I don't want to spoil anything again, but there was a lot of death in this movie. And I think for some, absolutely could be a little bit too much. And I would agree, I think, as well, there at times it was a little offhanded. It was treated as a little offhanded. It was a lot darker in that sense. I mean, just some of the ways that some of the people are getting killed off,
Right.
and as many people as are getting killed
Right,
off
right.
at different times. And I think that was one of her criticisms, and I completely validate that and understand it. I didn't personally feel as bad about that, but I definitely saw that, like, hey, there is a lot of death, and
Yeah.
at times it's being treated as just kind of like,
Comical.
yeah, like
Yeah.
whatever, like
Yeah.
they're getting sucked into space, and you know, poor guys getting like frozen to death, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, or like hundreds of people are getting shot in the head, and
Yeah.
you know, or through the chest, I should
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
So yeah, any other thoughts, Matt? I don't want to.
No, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
My only negatives, like I loved it. The biggest
Yeah.
drawback for me, and I'm beginning to see this trend with James Gunn and just his writing style, and I think this is what you're talking about. Not, you know, he's not afraid to just go kind of a new direction with a scene and
Yeah.
do, you know, approach it differently.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what's great about James Gunn's writing. However, and this is a weird comparison, but he did the writing on the Belko Experiment.
Right, and I didn't see that one.
Right. So I saw the Belko Experiment, and my biggest complaint about that movie is the biggest complaint I have about Guardians.
Okay.
Is that they were trying to cram a lot of jokes in too many times.
Yeah.
There were
okay.
times, mainly in the first half of the movie, it was consistently, it was like, it got to a point where I didn't know if there was going to be a serious moment because I was waiting for a punchline.
I get that. Yeah,
so-
I see that. I understand.
So
yeah.
there's one scene in particular between Chris Pratt and Kurt Russell's character that it's this heartwarming moment, but I wasn't sure if it was going to be a
Right,
heartwarming
you're waiting
moment.
for a joke to pop
I was
out.
waiting because
yeah.
I was just waiting. And there were times, and I had a packed theater, and so there were times when there were jokes that they were saying, but nobody was laughing too. I was kind of like, that was a forced joke a little bit.
Okay.
I felt like there's a couple jokes they just could have taken a few out, and I
Gotcha.
feel like that would have been just solid, you know? 'Cause
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
kept anticipating everything to have a joke. I
Yeah.
will say though, that's not the case for the movie as a whole, I would say 90% of the comedy works for me.
Yeah, I agree.
It was really, really good.
This movie was funnier to me than most of the comedies I've seen this year.
I know.
Which is sad.
I know.
Because it's not a comedy. I mean, it's got a lot of comedic stuff in it, though.
Gosh.
I mean, there was parts in the movie where I was actually like really laughing out loud.
I know, me too. I haven't laughed out loud like that in a while.
Yeah, and it was refreshing because I was like, a movie can be funny.
I know.
They can do things that are funny instead of just like these like tongue-in-cheek really like, oh, wow, that's funny because it's not what you would expect for them to say.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know. Yeah. So I was laughing. I agree. I get what you're saying, though. I can definitely, now that I'm like thinking about it and processing it, there's definitely moments like that.
Well, I was like,
you know,
oh, there's no punchline. Okay. Like, I was like, because I was just so like, everything. I was like, because there's a couple jokes that didn't work for me right at the get-go.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? This is getting too jokey. I don't want to be too jokey the whole time.
Right.
You know, I want there to be some serious. But I think that's where Chris Pratt's character in that storyline kind of, in that second half, really kind of took it home.
Yeah, I think so. I've been reading some of the reviews on stuff like this, and the biggest critique that I have that I'm reading, as we talked about this before, was more that people felt like it didn't reach the heights of, I think, the last movie. And I think a lot of that, again, has to do with the fact that people were more expecting, I don't want to, ruin too much of the whole story here, but people were really expecting it to tie much more into the bigger story of the Marvel universe.
MCU.
Yeah.
I didn't, see, I like it actually when they stand on their own.
Right. And I was fine with that, and I was expecting maybe some connection points, maybe a little bit more.
Right.
But I wasn't disappointed with them not being there.
Right.
And so I think that in a way kept it in some people's minds from being as significant of a film because it wasn't as connected to this Marvel universe. But I think, in my opinion, not every film should, their line shouldn't be like, how do we connect all this to the other parts of the story? Because it needs to just tell a good self-contained story. And if I'm going to have too much of that or none at all, I'd rather have none at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, we're going to get them. You know? The Guardians are in Infinity War.
Oh, yeah.
So
and they're going to be,
we're going to get all that connectivity.
They introduced plenty of like side characters and, you know, with Sylvester Stallone's whole group of cadre of characters. I think you got all the, with Adam, potentially I'm going to spoil that one
Adam
there.
Warlock.
But yeah. You know, but like there's plenty of different stuff that they put into this one that will lead into other expanded universe type stuff, and I was fine with it being a more self-contained kind of film. Yeah.
So, what was your, like, how do you feel about it compared to the first one?
I liked it better.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I liked it better as well. Yeah,
we're on the same page there.
I left the movie going probably one of the best films of the year for me. Probably,
it's really good, right?
Yeah, it's between this right now and Logan.
Logan?
Yeah.
Oh, man, dude, it was so good.
But they're two different distinct films, you know. One, they both have action, but one is much more drama, suspense, action, and this one is much more humor, action, fun.
Right.
You know, kind of. So I
want to see it again in the theaters. Like
I do too. I see. What did you see it? Where did you see IMAX? You see regular?
I saw a regular. I didn't see IMAX.
I saw it in 3D IMAX.
Yeah.
And so we kind of went and saw that one because the one we were gonna go see was almost completely sold out. In the regular standard cinema, which is generally the way that I like to see movies the first time. I'll rather, like, if I really like a movie, first I'll see it in standard,
right?
And then if I really like it and it's in 3D,
right,
IMAX, then I'll go and do that because you have better quality, better visuals, and then I can pay more attention to just the visuals, and I'm not trying to process the story and the acting and the music. So we kind of got defaulted into the IMAX in a way because we couldn't get tickets to the other one. So we saw it there. So I'm kind of wanting to go back and actually watch it in a regular. Awesome. Yeah, and I would say maybe for you, go watch the IMAX.
My favorite thing 3D about IMAX, even more so than the visuals, is the sound. It's just like, it feels like it's cranked to 11. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, and there's a really funny part. Like, I don't know how well this played out in your showing. Am I spoiling anything? But when they're on the rockets and he flies off and he's looking for, Rocket asks him for some tape.
Yeah. Oh, that's in the trailer.
Right, but he flies off, and in the theater, you could actually hear him
all the way around you?
All the way on the back left of the screen.
Yeah.
And it's like you're literally watching Rocket, and you can hear him off screen on the left side of the theater going like, does anybody have any tape? And it was just like, again, that's one thing that James Gunn is willing to do. He's willing to go there, you know what I mean?
That's
and use like the surround sound effects as like a valid, you know.
That's so good.
So I thought that was hilarious. I was like, oh my gosh, they actually did a great job making them sound like
sound design.
Yeah, really good sound design.
So what would you rate this thing?
Oh man, I've thought long and hard about this one because it's not a perfect film, but it's really good.
Yeah,
it's really high up there. And I also don't want to be too like, because this year is kind of stunk for films in a lot of ways. I don't want to be like, oh my gosh, best movie ever.
Right.
but I'm gonna give it, I think, a 95 out of 100.
Whoa.
94, 95. Yeah.
Wow.
Kind of in that range. There was just a lot of really, even the bad things. And I'll say this as well. We understand here on the podcast that it's a subjective thing.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's going to have their own opinion. And I definitely recognize it's a really high rating. And there's going to be some things that people are going to see about this film and it's just not going to like it because that's just not their thing. Some people might really not like 80s styled nostalgia films and products. I don't know what your problem is, but you know, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But like, I like that. I really enjoy that. You know what I mean? And it kind of hit me home and it hit me in a good emotional way. And like I said, I was engaged with the story. I was laughing harder than I've laughed at a lot of their stories. I was super entertained and I want to go see it again. I want to go enjoy it again.
The rewatchability factor.
The rewatchability factor is there. I feel like I might have even missed some different things. I mean, even the ending credits were so clever and at times in the way that like they did the thing with the I Am Groot where like the name is changing. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, but like even little things like that I thought was so like kind of cute and clever and well structured. And I feel like this is James Gunn's beast. Like he knows this universe and this is like his to do things with. And it's like, I'm glad. Yeah. You know, I'm excited for you. What about you?
No, I really liked it. I am going to give it a 90.
Okay.
So not quite as high, but I loved it. 90 is a great score.
It is a great score. I mean, it's an A.
I gave Logan a 95 or a 96.
Yeah.
So it's, oh man, it's just, it was such a surprise. I left super happy. And the fact that I wanted to like watch it again immediately. Yeah. Or the fact that I've been kind of dwelling on it and telling people about it all day, super excited about it. Yeah. That's a thing to me that just really shows, you know, that there's something special there and it's fun. Yeah. You know, it's just a fun movie.
Absolutely.
So let's do this then. Mm-hmm. That's going to be the non-spoiler, the end of our non-spoiler segment.
Yeah.
Let's dive into spoilers. This is your spoiler alert. If you don't want to hear anything else about specific details, go away now. This is your last warning. Spoiler review time.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Here we go. Yondu dies.
Yondu dies! That was so sad.
And it was really sad, but I think it was executed really well. And that's the emotional...
Don't say executed, because he's dead. It reminds me of him being dead.
Pun intended there, Joel.
There you go. There you go. I thought he was so cool, though, with his new haircut.
Amazing.
I mean, it wasn't a haircut, but his new hairpiece, like little thing, I thought that was amazing. I thought that was so cool.
His scene in the first Guardians was one of my favorite scenes where he took out that like tank and that group of men. I was like, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
But you didn't have any emotional attachment to Yondu in the first one. At least I didn't feel like I had
No,
any.
but it felt like I should.
Right. So
and they built on that amazingly.
The second one, this one, I was like, wow. Yeah. I feel for Yondu right now. Yeah. Like right out of the get-go when he was like shunned from the Ravager group, you know?
Right.
And then he dies at the end but he dies at the end. But he goes out in glory, and before that, he takes out like a whole ship of dudes.
Oh yeah,
it was awesome.
That was that was one of the points that we talked about, where it felt like death was in a little bit like just kind of whatever. Like they just kind of treated it like, people die, whatever. I get it. Like they definitely did some horrible things and kind of deserved to get killed. But that's one of those situations where it's almost like, let the ship blow up and them die. Don't be the one that actually goes to. It's like, you know, let me go kill all of these hundreds of people. It was
his revenge moment.
Right, exactly. And it was funny in a way. I mean, Rocket was hilarious at that moment too. And it was like a connection. It was horrible in a way because him and Rocket are like connecting over like the mercilessly killing all these people. Yeah. But I got over really quickly because that actually leads into that really, really funny scene of when they do the jump. This was like the funniest part of the whole movie. When they do the jump and he's like, you can only jump like 5, what is it? How many galaxies? I forget.
5 at a time.
5 at a time before it starts affecting you. And then he's like, whoa.
He's like, how many do we do? He's like 700.
So it's just his, like the way that his eyes are like bugging out of his face and they're all just like screaming. I mean, that just hit me as so ridiculously funny.
It was
it was like a drug trip without the drugs. Yeah. You know, and it was just so ridiculously hilarious. And then after at the end of that scene when they cut and they just have the still shot of Groot and he just goes, blah. He just gets sick right there. That was just really, really cute and funny. I mean, all kinds of awesome.
So and this is the part I was talking about with Nebula and Gamora earlier. Yeah. And I really so my favorite thing just in film in general is, first of all, as a person, I'm a peacemaker. When people are like not getting along that I feel like should be getting along, that like really like hurts me on the inside. Like I'm like, why you guys need to figure this out and get along, figure this out, make this work. Yeah. And that's kind of what happened with Gamora and Nebula. I feel like, there was to an extent where Nebula had been just she'd been upset. They didn't really build it up as well as I feel like they could have.
Right, I agree with that.
I do like the fact that there was this epic battle. I loved when she picked up the machine. I was like, wow, that was intense.
She like hot wires the gun. Yeah, it's like,
and then they have their battle. But it makes you understand kind of how like atrocious Thanos is a little bit too.
Yeah,
he's like
that. That is where I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
I feel like if they had just given us a scene at the ending with him involved in it, given us like an update on Thanos,
right?
That is where I feel like it would have been most effective,
right? To
kind of again bring this into a much larger MCU type film.
Yeah. Because
without we got a semblance of that with the relationship of Nebula and Gamora, but I feel like just give us a little. It's been so long since we've really gotten like an effective update.
Yeah.
Last thing that I remember significantly was he went to grab the gauntlet for the Infinity Stones.
I'll do it myself.
Right,
and that seems ages ago.
Exactly. So it's like, where's the update on that? Like, even if he's just in the middle of like murdering mercilessly like 100 of people or something like that, just give us like a little minor update because it's coming up pretty quick here.
So I'm believing that Feige and everybody there has a good handle on what's happening.
I do too.
But we'll see.
But I do too. So
I cared about Nebula and Gamora and their relationship more than I cared about any of the characters previously.
I didn't care about that. The problem was I didn't see that. I didn't experience it. So a lot of this is like secondhand knowledge. It's just difficult for me. So I would say this is an aspect of my probably personality that like if somebody's just saying like, you did really bad things to me, and then like, well, you did really bad things to me too. It's like, well, they're both probably a little right. They're both probably a little wrong.
Right.
I think this actually in some ways to me made Gamora look worse because I feel like it's almost like she was just kind of allowing it. It just felt very like offhanded that she's like, well, she's just upset because bad things happened to her. And it's like, no, you had impact, a reason for why she suffered as much as she did for as long as she did. And Gamora felt very cold. Yeah. It's not like, so yeah. But anyways, so I just didn't get into their story as much. I was fine with having them hate each other.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I was fine with them hating each other, and I was fine with them getting resolution to that in a way. It just felt a little softly treated.
Yeah. And let's and this is kind of going a different direction. But let's talk about Drax for a minute because especially when he meets up with Mantis, because every line he says to Mantis is just comedy.
You are so ugly.
You are hideous.
You are hideous. It was so great. He's like, oh, I'm getting sick just thinking about this.
And then his last line to her is, "You're beautiful."
Yeah, on the inside. Yeah, that was really cute. That was funny too, because he's like staring at her, and you're like, oh, this could be a moment, and it's like totally
like maybe they're gonna be a thing, and then you're okay, maybe not.
Yeah, no, I thought he was great. I mean, from the get go, even when they're having the fight. And he just like stupidly says, oh, it must be softer on the inside, so I will allow it to swallow me and I will stab it from the inside. And then it like jump cuts to him inside of the thing and he's just going like, ah! It's like having no impact at all. I just thought that was really
funny. Oh,
yeah. And then the scene with the trees and he's flying through and he's getting backed and he's just loving it. Yeah. He's like, that was amazing. Yeah. He's talking about his girl, in the first, just so many
dance.
The dance. Yeah.
He just has a ton of comedy gold in this.
Yeah.
I liked Rocket more in this one too.
I did too.
I think it's weird to say his humanity because he's not a human, but you got to see more of his like humanity kind of in it a little bit. But at the same time, he had some really cool scenes. I like the whole like ambushing all the Ravagers as they're thinking that they're gonna go ambush him in the ship as he's working on it at night.
Yeah,
that scene was really cool. In Groot, baby Groot. He, like we were saying earlier, he's not really like a super effective part of the team. In fact, he's like makes things like a little more difficult than they have to be sometimes.
Yeah.
But there's the intro credits, you guys, is amazing.
One of my favorites in like the last 10 years.
Right.
Almost,
so
the dancing and
my favorite thing that he does. So he's like
fighting in the background.
Yeah. So he's like a 2 or 3 year old at heart, right?
Yeah.
So. Or like he actually is. Like that's what his demeanor. Yeah. It's like a 2 or 3 year old, doesn't understand things.
Right.
And so he's dancing and he can't really help this fight at the beginning of the scene.
Right.
But like as he sees somebody he knows, like Gamora, he like sit there and he like waves.
He's like, hi. She's like, hi, Groot.
Hi, Groot.
Yeah. And then she
I gotta go fight.
Off. Yeah. Yeah. All that was funny. I mean, the way that they're fighting in the background and they're obviously like getting hurt and Peter Quill like falls down in front of him at one point, I think. And he's like, wait, what are you? And wow. He gets yanked out. I think that was great in a way to like get you back into the universe and back into the feel with the music because it's it's an 80s song and the characterization because you're getting little snippets of each of the characters throughout that and kind of how they interact with each other. That was like a great way to get them back into that. And then kind of set them on that path with the Sovereigns,
Yep.
which the Sovereigns were really hilarious to me because
They were funny.
They could have been, I feel like in any other movie, they could have been treated exactly like what they were pretending to be, which is kind of like these like better than thou, like uptight, like really like we are sophisticated, intelligent. Like in any other movie, that would have just been their character.
Yeah.
They would have just been the uptight, sophisticated, great, perfect people. But in this movie, it's like you can tell that that's tongue in cheek,
Right.
and that they're not that actually that great, that they make mistakes and they come to do stupid things. And there's a lot of social dynamics even in the way that they interact with each other. Like when the final fighter,
Right, they're all
like
gathered
all
around
together,
him.
and he's like, "You're an idiot, you suck, man." Like when he loses, and even the thing with like the carpet when they're rolling the carpet out and stuff like that. I mean, there's just so many clever kind of ways of handling that type of stuff. My favorite line, I think, still, like I said from the beginning, was "I'm Mary Poppins, y'all."
That was
just
really
probably,
good.
Yeah, and then the panda line, which I thought was actually pretty good.
So with the carpet thing, that for me was an instance of I didn't need that.
Okay.
It was just a,
See,
an
I thought that
instance
was
of it.
great because it added to the overall showing that they want to be this thing, but they're not.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
But I get where you could have cut that out.
So the one that like threw me off, and
Yeah.
it was an actual serious, like nice moment when he creates that like energy ball and is playing catch with his dad.
Yeah.
I was waiting for a punchline.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, this is a nice scene.
I get that.
Yeah,
it
I
was
was like-
kind of silly. I mean, in a way, you thought it was. I thought he was gonna like get hit in the face with it,
Right,
and go like,
right.
"Ah, my face,"
Yeah.
or something like that. I thought there was gonna be. There was definitely a couple times where I saw that happening.
Right.
I think there was kind of times where it wasn't. I wasn't laughing as hard.
Yeah.
Taser face. The joke with Taser
Yeah,
face.
yeah.
The first like minute of it,
They let it go too long.
right,
but,
was
like,
funny, but then they let it go way too long.
Yeah.
I think for the most part, though, whenever they went for a joke, I did think it was funny. I did laugh at it. Like another good example where they could have gone too far, but I thought was fine, was like the Baby Groot thing, where they're trying to get him to go get the fin.
Oh, I was
for
good
the
with
top.
that. I
Yeah,
was good
but
with
like
that,
for
yeah.
some people, they're like, okay, you went that was like one or two jokes too many. But like I thought that was great. I thought
Yeah.
that was hilarious.
The other one I didn't care for was the ripe thing that Nebula.
Oh yeah, that wasn't that funny either.
Yeah.
It was so obvious.
Yeah.
It was like
I was waiting for
if
it.
they had, yeah, exactly. If they had just not had her get the fruit or something,
I knew
like that,
right
that would-
before she chewed it.
I think it would have been funnier if she
had.
had gone to if she had still been denied that. Like
Yeah.
if she'd still tried to eat it and still gotten denied to her, I
Right.
think that would have been funnier in a way. Let's talk about, because one thing we have not talked about at all, and we're in spoiler territory here, so
Yeah.
we can talk about this, is Ego,
Yeah.
Kurt Russell.
Russell.
How do you feel like they handled that dynamic of him being like a planet, him being his father? I mean, the emotional baggage. Like, did you feel like that was all handled quite well? I mean, what was your opinion of his character and stuff?
I thought his character as well. He is a bit of a sociopath.
Yeah.
Because he, I don't think he really knew like what love is and what
Right.
that means.
Yeah.
He kept saying he loved Peter's mom and that stuff like that. He's like, I loved her so much. But
Right.
then, which by the way, when he said like I gave her that brain tumor,
Yeah.
and how quickly Chris Pratt's character like turned on him. I love that.
That was great. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
But him, I didn't have any preconceived notions as to what Ego would be. I knew he was like a living planet at some time. Like I'm like, I don't know anything about this character, so I was just accepting it all.
Gotcha.
Like I was like, okay, cool. I didn't really take any of his words for what it was, because it just seemed like he didn't really have the understanding of human life and love and like a conception
Right.
of that.
Yeah.
Where he kept saying he did, but I didn't believe that because of he was like,
Yeah.
he had a bunch of illegitimate children,
Right.
and was basically just using them.
Right.
You know.
I thought that was all revealed so well in a way and cleverly, and that kind of added to the darker sense of the film, though,
Right.
where it was like it was almost in a joking way, but it was handled like, oh yeah, I've had hundreds of kids and I've killed them.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it was
Yeah.
just like, what? And he's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, and I gave your mom a brain tumor. But it was also like, and I'm not gonna say it's right for him to do it, but it was understandable in a sense that if this were, and obviously it's not gonna happen, but if this were realistic, that some entity had sort of been created and
Right.
formed its own life and developed itself out of nothingness like that into like this thing with this planet, they might have like a sociopathic type tendency
Yeah.
to just kind of want to take what they want and
Yeah.
do what they want because they've never grown up, understanding what it's like. And I don't even know if you would consider he's not human, although he took on a human form.
Right. He's not. Yeah.
It's like, so you don't really know where he's kind of, because you have like good examples like Drax's character. He's a completely different type of person, but he fits within his universe's type of person.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, he might be a normal person within his universe of kind of person. And so I just thought it was really good. I thought it was really clever. I thought the funny thing with the Pac-Man
that was good.
Pretty hilarious because, you know, he's like, I
liked how they brought back the Zune.
Oh, the Zune was great too.
He's like 300 songs.
I know. It was like 300. It's like, that's nothing, dude. But I thought that was I really thought that was like such a hard scene in a way because he gets betrayed by his, not betrayed, but like his father starts using him, and then he takes his Walkman and just crashes it. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so like iconic for the series in a way. And it was such a clever thing to do, to like use that as like a situation where you can show that betrayal between like him and his father in a way, and that was really good.
It's gonna have to be like, instead of the awesome mixtape, it's gonna be like awesome playlist or something like that.
And I really also thought that the death of Yondu was not wasted. And
no, they handled it really well. Actually, it was very emotionally like good, really good.
Yeah, it was sad because, and I'd say this is another thing that I talked to my sister about. She felt like he died too soon, and I can definitely understand that because in a sense, we really just got to know his character.
Yep.
We really just got to know what he was doing and why he was there. But I felt like he served his personally. I felt like he kind of served his purpose.
I was just bummed out that we're not going to see, unless James Gunn's brother Krallig or whatever that guy's name is, like learns to get good with it.
Yeah, and I liked Yondu. I liked him a lot, and I felt like it was very sad. It was really depressing in a way that it's like, in a sense, Star-Lord has just realized that that's like his real dad to him, and it's not maybe his paternal dad, but it's his like fraternal dad.
Yeah.
So then to lose that in such a way that it's like a sacrifice, but it does kind of redeem the father-like notions in his heart. Mm-hmm. And I was also glad too, and this is going to sidetrack, I'm kind of catching up on little bits and pieces here before we finish, but I really like the way that they handle the relationship between him and Gamora. I was super concerned that was going to be the primary focus this whole I feel like they've built up to it now, that the next sort of volume 3 they can spend a lot more time dealing with that relationship.
This is more family dynamics, and they didn't try and like shoehorn in cheesy. They addressed it, but like in a very smart way. Right.
And that was the key to me, because there was actually a moment, it's like when he's facing off against his dad, he decides like when he finally like learns how to harness the power, of the planet, and his dad basically says to him like, what's more important than life and power? I forget exactly the line.
Yeah, something like
that. But that would be the moment where I was actually because he's thinking about all the situations he's had with like all of his with his mom and with the other people, the Guardians of the Galaxy, and he recognizes them as like family. I was actually thinking he was going to go, family's more important, and I'm actually really glad he didn't. He just went on to the like,
it would have been another Fast and Furious movie.
Right, exactly. So I'm glad that he didn't go that super cheesy route, and it was good because it never went down that cheesy route. And I thought the final battle with his dad at the end of that was really pretty crazy.
Yeah,
and
I liked
pretty
it.
Cool too. The one thing I don't understand is like, I understand that like the core of his dad is in that planet,
right?
But like he planted little seedlings of himself all around the universe, so it's like there's no reason why he couldn't go to another planet and like have control of like powers on another planet.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's probably it's beyond me. Maybe they'll talk about it in the third.
Yeah,
volume.
maybe they will. Yeah, but overall, I was really happy with this.
Yeah,
I think everybody did great.
Super pumped. Well, anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's fine.
Cool. Yeah.
Anything for you? There's a lot more we could talk about, but we try to keep these episodes pretty.
We try and keep them semi short, but that's going to conclude our spoiler section as well. I encourage you guys to go check it out in the theaters, especially if you like the first one. Or maybe if you were just kind of like okay about the first one, maybe check this one out too. You might actually find more enjoyment, like I did, and like Joel did too. Yeah. So check it out. Again, if you find us on our website, realreviewmedia.com, our Facebook at Real Review Media, Instagram same thing, Twitter same thing at Real Review Media. Get connected. Send us an email. What do you think about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2? And anything else, Joel?
Nope. I think that's it.
All right. Well, it's been real.
It's been real.